Other questions?
When you were coming up with the story and like the various mediums that you've used for this campaign, were there any case studies from previous campaigns in transmedia storytelling that you used as your sort of a basis or an inspiration?
You know what? It's such a, well, it's funny. I say new field, but people have been doing transmedia forever. I mean, we just hadn't called it that. It's just kind of the new buzzword, I guess. I mean, here's the funny thing. I had talked with the director of the Blizzard's creative development department, and he called me in, and he was much more of a you know, numbers guy and making sure everybody was happy with their jobs. Fantastic director, but not very much on the creative side. And so he pulls me and he says, "We really need to do more transmedia." And I could tell he'd heard that word and wasn't quite sure what it meant, but he knew we needed more of it. And we need to hire a transmedia guy, somebody who's got experience doing transmedia. And I left that discussion like a little upset and a little confused, and I just realized, wait, in creative development, what do? We take game stories and we make novels and comic books and short stories that tie them. We've been doing transmedia since this department was created. We were raised on transmedia, every single one of us. If you ever watched Star Wars and then read the McDonald's Happy Meal record that came with a little storybook, that was transmedia. You know, if you've ever followed any of these stories that have happened for so long, there's a reason I think that we gravitate to it, because it's part of the stories that we've loved our entire lives. And I think it's how, as children, when we imagined that we were in the Millennium Falcon with Han Solo, that universe was there and happening currently at the same time that Luke was, talking with his father. And so I think it's something that we had a sense for already having been done. But no, there weren't any specific case studies where we said, yes, these guys did this and it was very successful, because the Blizzard audience is kind of a unique audience in that regard as well. And our challenge with StarCraft in taking a game that was already popular, we didn't need to sell the game was selling fine, but we wanted to get people more invested in the story. The wonderful thing about this kind of storytelling is that you can be surgical with it. You can really hit very specific challenges. Anything else?
Have you thought of taking it a step further and going maybe like doing like an ARG as well? Or is that a lot more work since there's more to it than just story?
Yes and yes. We have thought about it, and yes, it is a lot more work. It's something that we've got top men looking at it right now. That's all I can. Top people.
One of the things I should say is that first thing on Project Blackstone, which was the login screen, people had to defeat it. Or not everybody had to defeat it, but one person had to defeat it, so everyone else could get into it.
Yeah.
That was shockingly pop. Like that, people went nuts over that.
Yeah.
And people started actually hacking the website to try to get more of it, even though we hadn't set anything up for it. So
we wish we'd been more devious.
Yeah,
I actually wish we had.
Yeah, it was sort of a last second thing. Like one of the web guys was just like, we could do this thing. And we're like, oh, that'd be awesome,
Yeah.
And so it was cool, and it was like, but we just hadn't set up any of that sort of sneaky get in there and get the good stuff. But I certainly was impressed by how popular that was. So
yeah, that would definitely be something that would have it get played much more in future transmedia campaigns, I guess you can say. It's something we're definitely, lessons learned from this is like, wow, we should have done way more cool hidden stuff in the code, Easter egg stuff in the code, and it's again a fantastic experience, because we can pull stuff away from saying, okay, well, what do we do next season? Anything else, you guys?
I don't know if you can answer this or not, but you say going forward you'd like to respond to the audience a little more directly. What do you feel a good response medium for that would be, i.e. the Galactic Newswire, etc.?
That's a good question. I think because we were using Twitter, and then we had our blog, and then we had these short stories, we were fairly confident there was a strong Twitter following in the StarCraft universe. And most of them were because that's how they follow the biggest esport commentators. For the Warcraft side of things, if we were to jump in onto that side, I don't know that Twitter would be as strong of a tool. There are lots of other avenues you could take. You know, there's Tumblr. There's, you know, we didn't use Facebook. We didn't use some of the other things out there. And that is the wonderful thing about doing a transmedia story like this, is you can really customize it for that. So within the fiction, how could we have something to respond like that? We've talked about some ideas. Generally speaking, they would have to be things where there was an audience, where an audience was part of the story, if that makes sense. And you know, obviously, you lose a lot of control when you open up to every single voice out there, and you certainly don't have your editing and your censorship and other bits that are kind of important. So you would probably have to work into some element of, okay, not every single tweet or every single response gets a response, but maybe if things are upvoted, or maybe if things just strike us as really pertinent, then yeah, that's when we would respond.
And you could have somebody within the fiction of the piece, you know, with Blackstone, you could have somebody who's a designated liaison, right? And so that liaison has a Twitter account and everything else, and sometimes he'll put out tweets to all the, you know, citizens of the Dominion, you know, what are your thoughts on this? And then that can be reflected, you know, then he can tweet other characters and say, you know, statistics show that the preference is blah, blah, blah. So there's definitely different ways you could do it. I don't know. It might be trickier if you try to have it where every single character is interacting with the public.
Yes. Having your ambassadors, having your, you know, and asking the audience to take a role in case, it's not a case of, okay, you're out there, you are, you know, you a random, you know, normal Earth citizen, you're actually a member of the Cthulhu sector civilization, and the responses that are put in that voice, that are given that a little bit of that flavor, get a response from the characters. You can, you know, subtly encourage people to come play the game with us.
Yeah, role play.
Sorry.
Are we okay? We're over time. You guys, thank you so much for participating in this. It was a lot of fun.